In the cold tunnels beneath the ruined city, a boy named Eli lived among rusted pipes and dripping water. He was no one special, just another forgotten human scraping for food in the dark sewers. But that night something strange lit up the sky above him. He looked up through a crack in the surface and saw a burning light tearing through the clouds. It screamed across the night like a dying star before crashing far beyond the slums. The sound shook the tunnels, dust falling from the ceiling and rats scurried away. Eli stood still, heart pounding, curiosity stronger than fear. For most people, a crash from the stars meant danger, but for someone who had nothing left to lose, danger was the only thing that made him feel alive, so he grabbed his worn jacket and climbed the ladder to the surface. The air above was cold and heavy with ash. The crash site was near the old factory ruins. As he approached, the air shimmered faintly, and the smell of burnt metal filled his nose. He saw smoke, twisted metal, and a faint glow, and then he heard a sound, soft but clear, like someone crying. Between pieces of glowing wreckage, he found her, an alien girl, her skin pale blue like moonlight, her eyes bright with pain and fear. Her leg was badly injured, and strange sparks came from the broken device on her wrist. When she saw Eli, she tried to crawl away, terrified. "I won't hurt you," he said quietly. Raising his hands, his voice echoed weakly in the ruins. She didn't understand his words, but she saw the softness in his eyes. He tore his own shirt into strips and tried to stop her bleeding. Her blood was silver, glowing faintly in the dark. He carried her back through the tunnels, step by step, her weight light but trembling. When they reached his hidden shelter, she fainted. Eli lit a small fire and stared at her face. Even injured and alien, she looked, lost like him. He didn't know who she was, but something told him she wasn't just anyone. When she woke, she spoke a few broken words in a strange language. Her voice was soft, but when she saw her leg bandaged, she looked at him in surprise. Then she touched his chest lightly, a gesture that almost felt like thanks. Eli smiled for the first time in months. Days passed and she began to recover. Eli found scraps of food, shared his water, and helped her walk again. He called her Lyra, because her voice reminded him of music sometimes. She looked up toward the night sky through the cracks and whispered something in her tongue. He didn't understand, but he knew she missed her world. One night when the tunnels grew silent, a strange humming echoed in the distance. Lyra froze, her eyes wide with terror. She grabbed Eli's arm and whispered one word he could understand: "Hunters." Before he could ask, the air trembled, and red lights cut through the darkness. Eli had never seen machines like those. Floating drones scanning the tunnels with beams of light. They spoke in cold metallic voices, searching, hunting. Lyra pushed him toward the back of the tunnel. Shaking her head urgently, she limped, but she moved fast, dragging him with surprising strength. "Why are they after you?" he whispered. She didn't answer, only pointed to the broken device on her wrist. Eli realized it was a tracker. Someone or something from the stars was looking for her. They hid beneath an old maintenance shaft as the drones passed above. The light missed them by inches. Eli held his breath, feeling her heartbeat against his arm. He didn't understand what he had stepped into, but he knew one thing. He couldn't leave her. Not now. Not after what he'd seen in her eyes. As the sound faded, Lyra looked at him, her face pale and frightened. "Eli," she whispered his name for the first time. He blinked, surprised, and she said again, slower, "Eli, help." In that moment he realized, whatever she was running from, it was far worse than anything he had ever faced on Earth. And when he looked at the glowing mark on her arm, he saw a symbol he would never forget, a mark that didn't belong to a victim, but to a royal bloodline. The girl he saved from the wreck wasn't just an alien. She was an alien princess, and the people chasing her had just found Earth. The tunnels shook again that night. Eli woke up to the sound of echoing metallic footsteps. Heavy and cold, Lyra was already awake, her glowing eyes wide. Clutching the broken device on her wrist, she whispered something in her alien language. Voice trembling, Eli couldn't understand. But fear needs no translation. From the far end of the tunnel, a crimson light pierced the dark. A hovering drone, its scanners sweeping side to side, searching for movement. Eli grabbed Lyra's hand and pulled her into a narrow side passage. He pressed his finger to his lips, signaling her to stay silent. They crouched together in the damp shadows, holding their breath. The machine stopped near their hiding place. It made a strange clicking sound as if it could sense their heat. Eli's heart hammered so loudly he thought it might give them away. But then Lyra's wrist device flickered and emitted a faint pulse of blue light. The drone turned suddenly and shot away, chasing the false signal she had sent when the danger passed. Eli exhaled shakily. "You did that?" he asked, though she couldn't understand his words. She nodded weakly, sweat glistening on her skin. He realized she was burning up, her body trembling. Her wound was glowing faintly now, silver veins spreading like light under her skin. He panicked, searching his small pack for water. But before he could move, Lyra grabbed his hand and pressed it to her chest. A surge of warmth rushed through his arm, almost electric. He saw flashes in his mind, memories that weren't his. A grand alien city made of crystal, a tall throne, and Lyra kneeling before it. Then came fire, explosions, soldiers shouting in alien tongues. He saw her running, wounded, carrying something that looked like a glowing orb. Then the memory shattered, and Eli stumbled back, gasping. Lyra's eyes were full of tears. She tried to speak, but only one word came clear. War. Eli understood then. She wasn't just lost. She was hunted because of something she carried. Maybe that orb, maybe the knowledge inside her mind. And whoever sent those machines would burn Earth to ashes to get it back. Suddenly the tunnel filled with static, the air shimmered, and from the darkness came a metallic voice, cold and perfect. Target life form detected. Retrieval protocol initiated. Red beams cut through the dark like knives. Eli grabbed Lyra and ran. He didn't think, didn't plan, just ran as fast as his legs could carry them. Sparks exploded behind them as lasers hit the walls. Lyra stumbled, limping, her injured leg slowing her down. He picked her up, his breath ragged, pushing through the pain. They burst into a forgotten subway tunnel. Filled with old trains and shadows, the machines followed, their lights slicing through the gloom. Eli ducked behind an overturned train car, panting. Lyra looked at him with eyes full of sorrow and whispered something that sounded like goodbye. "No," he said firmly, shaking his head. He didn't need to understand her words to know what she meant. He wasn't leaving her, not after everything. He had spent his whole life being invisible, powerless. But now, for the first time, he had something worth protecting. The machines drew closer. Lyra pressed her glowing hand to the ground, whispering strange words. A shockwave of blue energy rippled through the tunnel. The metal around them twisted, pipes groaned, and one of the drones exploded into light. Eli shielded his face from the blast. When he looked again, Lyra had collapsed, her glow fading. The remaining drones withdrew, as if recalibrating after the unexpected attack. Eli crawled to her side, lifting her gently. Her breathing was shallow and her skin was losing its glow. "Stay with me," he whispered. She touched his cheek lightly and managed to say a few broken words. "Heart, strong, human." Her fingers trembled as she pointed toward the broken orb lying near the wall. Eli reached for it. It pulsed faintly with blue light. The moment his skin touched it, it flared, symbols appearing in the air above them. Strange patterns, alien runes, and a faint image of Lyra herself, alive and standing tall. A message recorded long ago spoke softly in his mind. "If you find this, protect the child of the stars, for she carries the key to our survival." The vision faded and Eli stared in disbelief. He realized Lyra wasn't just a runaway princess. She was the last hope of her people. And somehow fate had chosen him, a poor human boy from the sewers, to protect her. As the drones regrouped at the far end of the tunnel, Eli looked at Lyra, unconscious but breathing. He clenched his fists, his eyes burning with new purpose. If the hunters wanted her, they'd have to go through him first. And for the first time in his life, Eli wasn't running anymore, he was standing his ground. The night stretched deep under the ruined city. Smoke still drifted through the tunnels where the drones had fallen. Eli sat beside Lyra, her breathing slow, her silver blood glowing faintly through torn bandages. The orb he had touched still pulsed weakly in his palm, sending ripples of light along his fingers. He stared at it, feeling warmth spreading through his arm. It wasn't painful, but heavy, like something alive was crawling beneath his skin. He wanted to drop it, yet something inside him whispered to hold on. Lyra stirred, opening her eyes for a moment, her lips forming a single word. Chosen. Then she fainted again, leaving him alone with the echo of that word. Chosen for what, he wondered. He was just a sewer boy living off scraps, forgotten by the world, but the orb didn't care who he was. It had already chosen. Suddenly, the tunnels flickered with blue light. The orb rose from his hands and floated in the air, Spinning slowly, it projected symbols on the walls, maps, constellations and alien codes. Eli stood frozen, watching as one image stopped, a burning world surrounded by warships. He understood none of it, yet somehow his mind felt different. The language wasn't foreign anymore, it was becoming clear. He heard voices, overlapping and distant, whispering inside his head. And in the middle of that storm of sound, a single voice spoke, strong and calm. "You are the bridge," it said. Eli gasped, stumbling back. The orb falling into his hands again. It pulsed faster, merging its light into his chest. He cried out as a surge of energy rushed through him, lighting up every nerve. The pain was sharp but brief. When it ended, he was left trembling, his skin marked with faint glowing lines like Lyra's. He looked at his hands, they shimmered faintly, alive with alien energy. He didn't understand what had happened, but he knew he wasn't the same anymore. Moments later, the ground rumbled. From the far tunnels came the echo of metallic footsteps again. More drones, stronger ones this time. Their red eyes cut through the darkness, scanning every corner. Eli stood up slowly, his body aching but his fear gone. He looked down at Lyra, unconscious but breathing. Then he turned toward the advancing machines. For the first time, he didn't hide. He raised his hand, and blue sparks flickered from his fingertips. The drones opened fire. Beams of energy sliced through the air, shattering concrete. Eli's instincts screamed at him to run, but the light inside him reacted on its own. A shimmering blue shield flared in front of him, absorbing the blasts. He stared in disbelief. He had no idea how he did that, but the drones didn't stop. And neither did he. He clenched his fists, and the air rippled, a shockwave bursting outward. Metal screamed as the nearest drone was thrown against the wall. Exploding into pieces, the others hesitated, recalculating. Eli's eyes glowed faintly, the same as Lyra's now. He felt something burning in his chest, not anger but purpose. He was fighting not just for himself anymore, but for her, for both their worlds. When the last drone fell, silence filled the tunnel again. Eli collapsed beside Lyra, gasping for breath, his body shaking. The glow on his skin slowly faded, leaving faint scars like lightning marks. He touched her hand gently and whispered, "We made it." Lyra's eyes fluttered open, seeing the wreckage around them. Her gaze shifted to Eli's glowing hands, then to the mark on his chest. Tears welled in her eyes, not of fear but hope. "Bonded," she whispered softly. "Our fates joined." Eli didn't know what that meant, but he nodded anyway. Somewhere deep above, a thunderous roar shook the ceiling. The surface trembled and dust fell like rain. Lyra turned her head upward, her expression darkening. "They found us," she whispered, voice trembling. Eli looked at her questioningly. She pointed toward the sky, where faint light filtered through the cracks. "Not machines," she said slowly, "something worse." As the earth above cracked open, a massive shadow descended through the smoke. Its voice echoed like thunder through the tunnels. "Return the royal vessel," it commanded, "or your planet will burn." Eli felt the air grow cold, his heart pounding again. He stood protectively in front of Lyra, his fists glowing faintly blue. He didn't know how to fight whatever was coming, but one thing was certain: he wouldn't run this time. The poor boy from the sewers had become the guardian of a princess from the stars, and destiny was only beginning to unfold. The ceiling above them split with a deafening crack. Chunks of concrete rained down, dust filling the tunnel like fog. Eli threw his body over Lyra to shield her, his skin glowing faintly blue. Through the falling smoke, a beam of light descended. Pure and cold, something vast moved inside that light, a shape like armor forged from night itself. When the glow faded, a towering figure stood among the ruins. Its eyes burned crimson, its voice calm but sharp like a blade. "Royal subject detected, the fugitive must be returned," the figure said. Eli stared in shock. The alien was easily twice his height. Its armor hummed with strange energy, symbols crawling across its chest. Lyra struggled to stand, clutching the wall for balance. "Commander Vorn," she whispered, her voice trembling. Eli looked at her, confused. "You know him?" Lyra nodded weakly, her eyes filled with pain. "He was my father's enforcer," she said. "Now he serves the usurpers." The commander's head tilted. "Your lineage is over, princess," his voice thundered. "The council declared you dead. Surrender the core and this world may live." Eli stepped between them, his pulse quickening. "She's not going anywhere," he said firmly. Vorn's gaze shifted toward him, studying this fragile human. "A primitive," the commander murmured. And yet the bond mark glows. His tone turned dark. You touched the core, Eli didn't answer. He didn't even understand what the core was. But when Vorn raised his hand, blue light gathered in his palm. Energy crackled, twisting the air. Eli felt the same power inside him react, rising like fire through his veins. The commander fired first. A beam of energy shot across the tunnel, exploding against the wall. Eli threw up his arms instinctively, a glowing barrier forming in front of him. The blast struck it and scattered like water hitting glass. Vorn's eyes narrowed. Impossible, he said. A human cannot channel Celeran power. Eli gritted his teeth, the shield flickering around him. I don't care what you call it, he growled. I'm not letting you take her. He pushed forward. The energy around him pulsing brighter, blue sparks danced from his fingertips. The ground trembled as the two forces collided. Light and shadow bursting through the broken tunnel like lightning. Lyra watched in awe and terror. She had never seen anyone. Not even her own guards stand against Vorn. Eli moved with raw instinct, not skill, but something deeper guided him. The connection forged when he touched the core. The battle tore through the tunnels. Pipes burst, flames erupted, metal melted like wax. Every time Vorn struck, Eli countered. Each blow shaking the walls. He was no warrior. But his heart refused to yield. Finally, Vorn caught him off guard. A wave of red energy slammed into Eli's chest. Throwing him backward, he hit the ground hard, coughing, his vision spinning. The commander advanced slowly, raising his weapon for the final strike. Lyra screamed, rushing to Eli's side. She pressed her glowing hand to his chest. Sharing her energy with him, her light merged with his. Fusing into a brilliant blue blaze, Eli's eyes snapped open. Glowing brighter than before, he rose slowly, the air around him rippling with power. The mark on his chest flared, forming a glowing circle of symbols. Vorn hesitated for the first time. What are you? He demanded. Eli's voice was steady, deeper, filled with something beyond human. I'm the bridge you tried to destroy, he said. Then he moved faster than thought. The energy around him erupted like a storm, hurling the commander across the chamber. Vorn crashed through the concrete wall, disappearing into the dark. Silence followed. Broken only by the dripping of water, Eli stood trembling. The blue light fading slowly from his body. Lyra reached out to steady him, her voice soft. You did it, she whispered. Eli nodded weakly, his breath uneven. But somewhere above, deep in the night sky, a new sound rolled like thunder. A fleet, the commander's reinforcements, descending through the clouds. Lyra looked upward, fear returning to her eyes. They're bringing war to your world, she said. Because of me. Eli shook his head, a faint smile on his bruised face. Then we'll give them a fight they'll never forget, he said. He turned toward the tunnel's exit, light flickering behind him. For the first time, he wasn't just a boy hiding in the dark. He was humanity's first defender against the stars. The wind above the ruined city howled like a living thing. Flames rose from the broken towers as alien ships pierced through the clouds. Their engines roared with a sound that shook every street and shattered every window. Eli and Lyra stood at the edge of the tunnel mouth. Staring at the burning skyline, the commander's fleet had arrived. Dozens of dark shapes hovered above the city, releasing waves of drones that swarmed like insects. The night sky glowed red from their searchlights, hunting, scanning, destroying everything that moved. Eli clenched his fists, the blue marks on his skin glowing brighter than ever before. Lyra turned toward him, her eyes filled with sorrow and guilt. This is my fault, she said softly. They followed me here. Eli shook his head slowly, his voice low but steady. No, he said. They came because they think humans are weak. Let's show them they're wrong. They climbed to the surface. Stepping into chaos, buildings burned, people screamed, and the air was thick with ash. The drones spotted them instantly, crimson beams cutting through the smoke. Eli raised his arm, summoning a shield of light, the blast scattering harmlessly around them. Lyra lifted her hand beside him, her own energy flowing into his. Their powers merged, blue and silver light spiraling upward like a storm. The nearest drone exploded, then another, until the sky above them shimmered with electric fire. For a moment, the invaders hesitated, confused. Then the air split apart as Commander Vorn's ship descended, massive, black, and covered in alien runes. It cast a shadow over the entire block. A voice thundered from its speakers, cold and filled with fury. You cannot stop the will of the stars. Eli looked up, the reflection of the ship burning in his eyes. Maybe not. he said quietly. But I can change it. He closed his eyes, and the core within his chest pulsed once. Light surged outward in every direction. Bright enough to turn night into day, the ship fired its main cannon. A beam of energy cut through the air, but Eli stepped forward, pushing both hands outward. The blast met his shield with a sound like thunder breaking stone. The ground cracked, light flared, and the shockwave spread through the entire city. Lyra joined him, her voice rising in a foreign chant. Together their powers merged completely, the light wrapping them both like wings. The beam from the ship bent, twisted and split apart, then turned back upward, slamming into the ship that fired it. The explosion lit the sky in blinding white. Flames rose high enough to touch the clouds. When the smoke cleared, the flagship was gone. Only burning fragments fell from the heavens like dying stars. The remaining drones froze mid-air. Their signals cut off one by one, they fell to the ground. Silent and lifeless, the city was quiet again, save for the crackle of distant fires. Eli dropped to his knees. Exhausted, his breath ragged, Lyra knelt beside him, placing a hand over his heart. "You carry our light now," she whispered, "and your world is part of ours." He smiled weakly, his voice rough. "Guess the universe just got a lot smaller," he said. She laughed softly, tears shining in her eyes. For the first time since her crash, she looked at peace. A faint hum rose from the sky, a new signal. Calm, not hostile, Lyra looked up and whispered, "My people, the ones who still believe." A smaller ship descended, white and gleaming. Not a weapon, but a rescue craft. It hovered silently above them. Releasing beams of soft blue light, Lyra turned to Eli. Sadness and hope mixed in her gaze. "I must go," she said gently, "but the bond remains." Eli nodded slowly. He didn't try to stop her. He just smiled, the tired smile of someone who had seen too much. As she stepped into the light, she paused and looked back one last time. "Human," she said softly. "Your courage saved more than you know." The ship rose. Disappearing into the night sky, Eli stood alone on the shattered street, the first rays of dawn breaking through the smoke. The city was scarred but alive, and somewhere deep inside him the core still glowed. A reminder that even in the darkest place, a single act of kindness could change the stars. He looked up at the fading light, whispering to himself, "I was just a boy from the sewers," he said, "but now the universe will remember my name."